Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Logistics Executive TV. Today, I'm joined by the most interesting man in logistics, well known and verifiable, most interesting man. And I'm absolutely delighted he could join us today. Steve Ferreira is author of two best-selling books. He is the founder and CEO of Audit. He's a very prolific producer and sharer of information on LinkedIn and other platforms. He's a USA best-selling author of a couple of books, which we'll talk about shortly. He's been a television host. He has been working with some of the largest tier one global logistics organizations over his lifetime. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome you, Steve. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Hi, Kim. It's an honor to be here. Wow, that introduction was a world class. I don't know if I could ever live that down. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're joining us all the way from Florida in the US, so really enjoy having you on. And of course, we had a bit of a chat yesterday, and that could have gone for days. I think you've just returned from the Trans-Pacific Maritime Conference, so let's kick off with that because I saw a lot of really good blogs from you, and that was in Florida as well. Yeah.
Actually in Long Beach, California, Los Angeles.
There you go.
It's and it's the pilgrimage. It's weird. We all make it every year. 5,000-6,000 professionals that are and even though the title of it is the TPEB, Trans-Pacific Eastbound conference, so to speak. We call it TPM, Trans-Pacific Maritime Conference. Obviously professionals from all areas of the domicile are there. Luminaries like Lars Jensen from Vespucci Maritime in Copenhagen. People that are in the Atlantic and other trade lanes. It really is the who's who of container shipping. And as I said, this took place, as you mentioned, about 2 weeks ago. It concluded. And I think the best way to put it is I have a really close friend, John Monroe, who's another senior advisor in the container shipping industry. And John said it really well. You have to prepare for this TPM conference 4 or 5 months ahead of time. It is such a significant conference that everyone's going to be at that you really need to get your appointments and your scheduling set up here and, to make sure you get all your ducks in a row. It's that important a conference. And it didn't disappoint this year. Some incredible takeaways from it. And I think the two that come to my mind just right off the top of my head, unexpectedly, is that we certainly did not see the kind of he said or she said or carrier against the importer exporter, that dynamic that you would kind of natural friendly stress and tension between shipping rates and the importer or exporter. This year seemed to be more domiciled around, say, some of the geopolitical events, such as the new Trump administration tariffs on foreign goods, and certainly the latest soup du jour is potential fines and penalties on Chinese vessels, which would then be passed on to the beneficial cargo owner. So I think TPM was real hopping because of these topics and the fact that nobody really knows the true answer to either one of those questions, Kim.
Exactly. Well, if anybody's going to come up with an answer, Steve, it's probably going to be you, and you're probably going to have some good takeaways to go with it. So, hey, we look forward to it. Just before we jump off TPM, we had a bit of a chat yesterday about something that's of real interest to both you and myself, being what would we call it? Senior by age at least, or generation members of the community, which is extremely diverse and widespread. But we're baby boomers, and you were really surprised at some of the inputs and some of the participants in this year's show.
Well, it was really amazing. This one gave me a lot of energy. I'm 64 and I've been in the industry 42 years. And I know that, we can have so many great stories, you and I, because of our experiences, and that's collectively pretty amazing. But I arrived in California for this conference, and, I was immediately met. Hey, Steve, we see you on LinkedIn. You don't know me, but I'm so-and-so. And, this kept going on and on. And all these people are 28 years old and 32 years old. And so what I'm trying to get at is I was amazed how there was such an infusion this year more than any other year, of new, young, super uber smart intellectual talent coming into the conference, right? And it
Oh,
told me, it showed me that these major companies bringing the next generation into the arena quite at a quite appropriate time, because this is the great time to learn from the best of the best of not only the operational and economic features of ocean freight shipping, but also obviously the geopolitical ones. And I'll tell you one thing. I'll leave you with that one thought. It was so big a deal on the influx of these great young folks, right? That we even started, or they started a club called the Cool Kids, and that's the new
yeah.
hashtag. And they made me an honorary member. So you've got these beautiful 30-year-olds and me in the picture. It's like, what what's wrong with this picture, right? But no, I loved the energy that the new participants in our industry are bringing, and we need a lot more of that, as you probably agree.
I think the dynamics around how we interplay, how the integration goes or doesn't go, and with AI and with various roles. And of course, there's just a massive spectrum of roles right across the sectors that you and I live and breathe in with all of our colleagues, that it is going to be super interesting. We jump off TPM. I want to talk to you just briefly also about the fact I mentioned at the top. You've written a couple of fantastic books, bestseller list with New York Times, as I understand it. Let's get a quick overview from you on those, and just a quick mention about that and where the inspiration came from and what the headlines are from those books.
Well, thanks. It's funny. Sometimes people, ask me about what I do, and I always have to lead off with the books because I'm so darn proud of how they performed in the market. But that said, though, I'm not really like, I am an author, but it's certainly not my, like, I don't want to be like my good friend Dan Stanton and continue to write book after book after book, and that's what Dan does. He's a great intellectual author. I wanted to make a statement. So navigating B2B, my seminal work, which hit number 3 in the country. I actually beat Oprah Winfrey on one of the weeks. It did so well, but it's really a architectural engineering schematic on how to navigate in the B2B world,
Yeah.
and also how to come up with unique marketing strategies, such as, really funny glasses and colorful. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't give you those instructions. It's like life's little instruction book. But no, navigating B2B was a seminal work that I spent about a year contemplating and writing, and a lot of it had to do with my journey into the container shipping industry, but the bigger picture of being a leader, right, in an industry, and developing that and showing the audience how they can do the same thing in their niche industry. So that was really the inspiration. And as I said, as I tell everyone, it's a pretty fun thing, to go into a high level meeting and hand out a copy of the book instead of the business card. So.
Can't beat it. So hey, look, let's get into it, because you are a mover and a shaker right across, specifically around the world of containers, as well as others. But you say people, literally large companies, tier 2, tier 3 companies, hundreds of millions of dollars in your area of specialization. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Ocean Audit and FreightAudit.com.
Sure. Well, Ocean Audit and Freight Audit are one and the same company. I had the domain FreightAudit.com for a number of years and didn't really know what to do with it. It's truly, the holy grail of what I do. So my main role, my main website is OceanAudit.com. Of course, I have FreightAudit.com as well. They're both kind of mirrored websites. Some people don't understand the dynamics of ocean freight auditing. They tend to glom it into freight auditing as a generic specialty, and that's why I have the 2 different sites. But I would say 95% of my professional revenues come from the ocean audit discipline, where I'm looking at clients' ocean freight and global logistics invoices for the last 3 years. Generally speaking, there are some rules of the road, but generally speaking, importers and exporters around the world have several years to repatriate lost, overbilled, misappropriated funds from ocean transportation. And so I developed a prototype or a program. I shouldn't say a program because it really is an art and a science, but I have the ability to go back and deliver 3 years of refunds to any importer or exporter around the world. And the great thing about it is I do it all on a contingency, which means that, if I don't deliver a refund, the client gets my services free of charge. The reason why this is so important, I think, is that um, most CFOs and financial leaders in these huge companies like the Fortune 100, they like to put this electric fence around, the spend. So they'll hire freight auditors, right? They'll hire what we call prepayment auditors, which will look at the invoices for any kind of payable. Could be rent, real estate, taxation, advertising, freight, right? And so now here's where I come in on the freight side. But a lot of times the CFOs will hire pre-auditors to look at the invoices before they're paid. And it gives them peace of mind that they'll never pay a bad invoice. Well, the pre-audit industry is a little bit of a myth because for ocean freight, there's so many moving pieces that even though a client might have a pre-audit and an internal audit, when I come in from post-audit, I'm still finding millions and millions of dollars because there are so many gaps and non-standard expertise in the pre-audit. It's almost like, think of it this way: a pre-auditor might have 3 ways to understand an invoice being overbilled. In ocean freight, there are over 42 different ways that an ocean freight invoice can be overbilled. So I think that the post audit, me coming in after the client has paid the invoice, is the most profound thing and the thing I can contribute the most to, because they can do 2 things, right? They can evaluate the accuracy of their original audit. Wow, this auditor is doing good. Or hey, this auditor stinks. And I think for many logistics leaders and finance leaders, they now have a new set of metrics that they can work with their carrier partners on, saying, hey, how come your 1.3% of your invoices are in error from Shanghai or from Auckland, right? And so I think that by having the ability to look at the invoicing, it brings another tool to the logistics and professionals and finance to understand the dynamics of their vendor partner accuracy.
So Steve, you're not saying that most people in freight auditing are boring, are you?
No, but I would say that the green eye shade kind of mantra. I mean, a few of my competitors were hanging around TPM. I could kind of see them out there giving me the side eye as I'm walking through with my microphones and camera crew.
Any thoughts from you about what any of the surprises we might be looking at in the freight or ocean sector in particular over the next 12 months? Anything we can come back in 12 months and say, well, Steve, you said this and this is what happened. Sure enough, it was 5x what you said.
Well, I'm not sure it's an original idea, but I think certainly the idea of $500-$600 per container potential extra costs just associated with this what the administration in the U.S. is trying to do with Chinese vessels. If the cargo is on a Chinese vessel or part of a Chinese vessel fleet, there are some potential penalties that might come in, or fines that might come into play that will be passed down, obviously, from the ocean vendors to the BCOs. And so I keep thinking, sitting in my chair in Miami, I think that some of the BCOs, I'm not quite sure what's going to hit them. And a $500, $600 increase on one issue, on this Chinese vessel issue, if it does come into fruition, is major, major news, especially if it's spread out for the next 12 months. Now, what I think might happen is I think that this could be potentially mitigated, right? Where, maybe on the books, it looks like it's got $500 increase, and maybe it hits down at 150 or 200. But I think that the key word today is it's definitely the C word. It's cost control, and I think that's one of the big things that the BCO has to have. Now, one of the reasons why I say that too is you think about the ugly years of what I call, famous. I dubbed the word containergeddon. The extremely high rates in 2021, 2022. $25,000 a container. And then, 2023 goes down to $2,000, and then 2024 popped up again. I think BCOs were hoping that ocean rates would level out and floor down, to that $2,000 range again. I don't see that happening. And now with the extra added cost pressure on some of the tariffs and duties, it's looking a little ugly times ugly.
Okay. Yeah, no, interesting reflections. And as you say, mainly related to the BCOs. Before we wrap, what about you importers, exporters in particular, and even the freight forwarders? What's your sort of your take, and what's your area of impact? Where can you help mostly in those areas?
I think right now, we're still such a old world industry. This industry has this typical kind of May dance right around now, March, April, where rates and deals are being set. And in some ways, it's some of the same old, right? You look at the ocean contracts that importers and exporters sign. They're, in my opinion, right, they're heavily weighted in favor of the carriers. It's only because the importers and exporters, there's a lot of new people in roles, and maybe the downside of the new people in the roles is they don't understand the nomenclature as much as some of the guys that might have been around 20 years. And so I see a lot of contracts between ocean vendors and importers, exporters that are really written in favor of the ocean vendor. So I think my role is to, I see my role and my path in life for the next couple of years is to help importers and exporters control their costs, because cost is such a big factor in obviously the logistics. Even when costs are in the favor of the importer or exporter, there's still obviously a game or a foundation to improve upon that. But I think right now, Kim, what I'm seeing for importers and exporters is, I said, there was this movie where it's, one of my favorite lines, it's like, it's ugly times ugly. And I keep saying that over and over again, because I think it's ugly in terms of what the cost structures might be for importers and exporters, and maybe some of the surprises that they haven't baked in to their budget. And I think that's what I'm trying to help them with, is getting refunds to partially offset some of these troubled waters ahead.
No, it's interesting. And you triggered me just when you mentioned about, there's a lot about our industry that, there's been massive change, and I want to talk a little bit just to wrap on technology and quiz your brain on that. But, a lot of things are very much the same as they were forever and a day, way back when you and I in the 80s when we're in the industry in the beginning. And, take, for example, the impact of technology, which I want to get to now and just talk briefly about, is where have you seen the impact mostly there, impacting on what was, to a large extent, same old. Take, for example, WiseTech Global, which is started by a guitar tuner from the AC/DC band in Sydney, Richard White, who I've said I've met a number of times in Sydney. Started WiseTech Global, the darling, probably the strongest performing share price on the Australian NASDAQ, the Australian share price, the ASX. Had a few issues lately, but a massive impact globally on collaborating with all elements of the supply chain, including ocean and container management. And they've gone about 100x on what their share price started at. Hey, Steve Ferreira, the most interesting man in logistics, absolutely for sure. CEO of Ocean Audit and FreightAudit.com. One of the big thinkers and big talkers, which is a delight to hear you talk and contribute at the stage of your career, and you've got so much to give. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to catching up with you in person somewhere over the next 12 months. I'm sure we're going to intersect. Really want to appreciate, thank you for your time today. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future.
It's an honor to spend time with you, Kim, and I'm so proud of all the accomplishments that you've had on your end. Thank you for the time, and I can't wait to talk again. Thanks again.
Good on you, Steve. And before I let you go, before I forget, where can people best get hold of you?
Well, I'm the most interesting man, and maybe not in logistics, but maybe on LinkedIn. So I would say LinkedIn is my my go-to, and of course, anyone can email me at stevef@oceanaudit.com, or just go to oceanaudit.com or freightaudit.com for more information.
Steve Ferreira, thanks so much for joining us. All the best.
Thank you, Kim.